out the population to gain control of the territory, and he ensured that they could not and did not return. Your Honors, the evidence will prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the crimes for which Bosco Ntaganda is charged occurred within the context of a non-international armed conflict that ravaged Ituri for more than 1 year. The evidence will also show that the crimes occurred during a widespread or systematic attack against a civilian population, covering a large territory and harming a large number of civilians. The crimes were not random, isolated, or spontaneous. They were part of a carefully planned, coordinated, and executed campaign of violence, deliberately targeting the Lendu and Ngiti civilian populations and other non-Hema ethnic groups. Bosco Ntaganda personally committed crimes. He also made an essential contribution to a common plan to assume military and political control of Ituri and drive out their enemies. As one of the highest military commanders in the UPC, he planned, he coordinated, and commanded the two attacks of the November 2002 and February 2003 with Floribert Kisembo and other top UPC military leaders, militia leaders. He recruited, trained, and organized the army. He procured and distributed weapons and ammunition. He ensured compliance with orders. He developed the group's communication ability. He issued orders to attack, pillage, rape, persecute, and kill or induce the commission of crimes. He and the other co-perpetrators acted in a common purpose to commit the crimes. Not only did Bosco Ntaganda directly or jointly commit crimes, he also failed to prevent or punish the crimes committed by the troops under his effective command and control. He was Deputy Chief of Staff in charge of operations and organizations. And he also exercised extensive de facto powers. His orders were executed automatically. The evidence will show that he knew or should have known that his troops were committing or were about to commit crimes. These were the same troops that had committed crimes in other attacks and using the same brutal tactics. Mr. President, Your Honors, you will hear from many witnesses during the course of this trial. Some of these witnesses have reported alleged attempts to interfere with them to end their cooperation with the prosecution. We have taken and continue to take measures to address this. Let me caution those individuals behind alleged attempts to intimidate ICC witnesses. These are serious offenses under the national law of states parties. These are serious offenses under the Rome Statute of this court. This trial must proceed without interference with either the prosecution or the defense witnesses. Lastly, Mr. President, you will hear repeatedly throughout the trial about the ethnic conflict that pitted the Hema against the Lendu, Ngiti, and other ethnic groups. You will hear evidence that the UPC was a Hema militia created by and for the Hema population of Ituri. It is important to acknowledge here that both sides to the conflict, the Hema and the Lendu, as well as the other ethnic groups, perpetrated acts and suffered as victims during the conflict. Atrocities were committed by all sides, and the militias in the area exploited ethnic divides to satisfy their greed. Let me be clear. This trial is not a trial of the Hema people. It is not about vindicating or indicting an ethnic group. Indeed, my office has equally prosecuted crimes committed against the Hema victims. Je tiens à préciser encore une fois que le procès qui est sur le point de s'ouvrir n'est pas le procès de l'une ou l'autre communauté. Il ne s'agit pas du procès d'une appartenance ethnique ou d'un groupe ethnique. Il s'agit du procès d'un individu, Bosco Ntaganda, qui a profité des tensions ethniques en Ituri à des fins personnelles pour accéder au pouvoir et à la richesse, et qui, pour ce faire, a commis des atrocités. This trial is about his individual criminal responsibility for murder and attempted murder, pillaging, attacks against civilians, attacks against protected objects, destruction of property, rape and sexual slavery, persecution, forcible transfer of a civilian population, and significantly, the enlistment and conscription and the use of children under the age of 15 and their rape and sexual slavery. This case, Mr. President, is about the thousands of victims of his crimes who must finally have justice. They deserve no less. The evidence will prove that Bosco Ntaganda is guilty of the crimes as charged. Mr. President, Your Honors, my learned colleague, Nicole Sampson, the senior trial lawyer of the case, will now present the context in which the crimes were committed in a more detailed outline of the evidence supporting the charges. I thank you, Mr. President, Your Honors.